Kelyan Bokassa was just 14 years old. Like many boys his age, he had hopes and dreams for his future. He loved music and wanted to become a rapper, a way to tell his story and connect with the world around him. He was a son, a friend, and a young person trying to find his way in a city that can be both beautiful and incredibly tough. His life was just beginning, full of the potential that every child deserves to explore. He had a family who loved him, especially his mother Marie, who fought hard to keep him safe from the dangers that she saw creeping into his life from a very young age. But Kelyan's world was complicated. He grew up in an environment where the threat of violence was always close by. From as young as 6, his mother said he was targeted by older individuals who wanted to pull him into the world of gangs. This is a story we hear too often in London, where vulnerable children are groomed and exploited. They are promised a sense of belonging or protection, but what they really find is a cycle of fear and violence. Kelyan was a child caught in this terrifying web, a reality that his family tried desperately to change, feeling let down by the very systems meant to help them. Despite these challenges, Kelyan was trying to navigate his teenage years. He went to school, he spent time with friends, and he held on to his passion for music. His mother described him as a boy who needed protection, not punishment. The day he was killed, he was simply traveling on a bus, something thousands of children in London do every single day. He was heading home, perhaps thinking about his day or what he would do that evening. He was just a kid on a bus, a scene so ordinary and familiar it makes what happened next all the more shocking and difficult to comprehend. The tragic end to his story serves as a painful reminder of the fragility of life and the immense dangers that some young people face. Kelyan wasn't a statistic. He was a person with a future that was brutally stolen from him. His story is not just about a crime, but about a community's loss and the failure to protect a child who was crying out for help. His name, Kelyan Bokassa, is now etched into the city's memory as a symbol of the devastating consequences of knife crime and the urgent need to shield our children from such profound harm. On the afternoon of January 7th, 2025, Kelyan Bokassa boarded the 472 bus in Woolwich, southeast London. It was a normal day, a routine journey. He made his way to the top deck and sat down, unaware that he was being followed. About 20 minutes later, 2 other teenagers got on the bus. They were both 16 years old and were armed with identical, menacing machetes. They walked directly up to Kelyan, who was sitting alone. The attack that followed was swift, brutal, and horrifyingly premeditated. It was a planned ambush on public transport in broad daylight, stripping away any sense of safety. What happened next lasted only 14 seconds, but it was an eternity of violence. The 2 attackers stabbed Kelyan 27 times without saying a single word. The assault was captured on the bus's CCTV, which later showed the attackers smiling during their horrific act. Kelyan, completely outnumbered and caught by surprise, tried to use his school bag to shield himself from the blows. He was carrying a small kitchen knife, likely for his own protection in a world he felt was unsafe, but he never had the chance to use it. His final moments were filled with terror and pain as he cried out for his mother. The bus driver, realizing something was terribly wrong, quickly activated an emergency alarm at 2:27 p.m. The attackers fled the scene, getting off the bus and disappearing, leaving behind a scene of chaos and devastation. A passenger bravely tried to help Kelyan and paramedics arrived quickly, but his injuries were too severe. He had been stabbed in the leg, severing his femoral artery, a wound that proved fatal. Kelyan managed to stumble towards the stairs of the bus before he collapsed. He died right there on the bus at 3:23 p.m., a place that should have been a safe public space. The cold-blooded nature of the attack sent shockwaves through the community and across the country. It wasn't a random fight that escalated, it was a calculated execution of a child. The fact that it happened on a public bus, a place where people from all walks of life come together, made it even more terrifying. For many people, the story of Kelyan's murder highlighted a terrifying reality about the level of violence some young people are willing to inflict upon one another, and the ease with which deadly weapons are carried and used on our streets. The 2 teenagers responsible for Kelyan's murder were arrested on January 15th, 2025. Their identities are protected by law because of their age, but their actions speak volumes about a deeply troubled background. In court, they pleaded guilty to murder and carrying a weapon. This wasn't their first encounter with the law. Both boys already had previous convictions for carrying blades in public. This fact raises serious questions about whether the justice system is doing enough to intervene and stop young offenders from escalating their violence. They were known risks, yet they were free to plan and carry out this deadly attack. The investigation revealed the chilling extent of their planning. They had acquired identical machetes and had located Kelyan with a clear intention to cause him fatal harm. After the attack, they fled, and one of the murder weapons was later found by police in the River Thames, a clear attempt to get rid of the evidence. Their actions were not impulsive, they were deliberate and coordinated. This level of organization points to the influence of gang culture, where violence is often used to settle disputes, gain status, or enforce control. These two boys were not just troubled teens, they were acting as willing participants in a cycle of brutality. This case shines a harsh light on the vulnerability of children in the social care system. Kelyan himself had been in care, a situation that often leaves young people more exposed to grooming and exploitation by gangs. His mother, Marie, had repeatedly sought help from authorities, warning them that her son was being targeted. She felt that her pleas were ignored and that the system had failed to protect her child. Her experience is shared by many parents who feel powerless as they watch their children being pulled into a dangerous world with little to no effective support from the agencies that are supposed to safeguard them. The tragedy of Kelyan Bokassa is therefore not just a story of a single horrific crime. It is a story about the intersection of several deep-rooted societal problems: the knife crime epidemic, the pervasive influence of gangs, and the shortcomings of a care system that is struggling to protect the most vulnerable children. When young people with a history of carrying weapons are not effectively managed, and when children in need of protection are left exposed, the consequences can be utterly devastating. Kelyan's death is a stark and painful outcome of these systemic failures. On July 25, 2025, the day of the sentencing, Kelyan's mother, Marie Bokassa, stood outside the Old Bailey, a court that has seen so much of London's history, but her focus was on the future. She described herself as a broken soul, a mother who had to celebrate her son's 15th birthday at his graveside. Her grief was raw and immense, a pain that no parent should ever have to endure. She spoke of her fear of public transport, a constant reminder of where her son took his last breath. Her life and the lives of her family have been shattered forever by this senseless act of violence. In her victim impact statement read to the court and in her words to the public, Marie's message was clear. This has to stop. She spoke directly to the young people of London, pleading with them to put down their knives. "You're not just killing one person," she said, "you're killing a whole family." Her words were not just an expression of her own personal agony, but a powerful call to action for an entire generation. She challenged the idea that carrying a knife offers protection, revealing instead that it only creates more victims and spreads more pain throughout the community. The judge who sentenced Kelyan's killers to life in prison called his death a senseless loss to the horrors of knife crime. He acknowledged that Kelyan was a victim not just of his attackers, but of a wider culture of violence that is claiming the lives of too many young people. This sentiment was echoed by the lead detective on the case, who pointed out that violence in London disproportionately affects young black men and boys. It is a crisis that requires more than just arrests and convictions. It demands a collective effort from everyone to address its root causes. Marie Bokassa's courage in speaking out offers a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. Her plea is for a future where no other mother has to stand outside a courtroom broken by grief. It is a call for communities, schools, and authorities to work together to provide real alternatives to gangs and violence. It is a demand for better support for vulnerable families and a more robust system to protect children like Kelyan. His life was tragically cut short, but his mother's fight for change ensures his memory will serve as a powerful catalyst for building a safer, more hopeful future for all our children.